Hey everybody, I'm Paul and this is FitSpaz Recovery. Welcome to another show. I've had a lot of things going through my mind about what I want to say in this one. I do have sort of a rough outline, and some of it, I think it's interesting. I think I can make it interesting. I feel a little bit sluggish today because I went to bed late last night. I went to bed at 12:30, and that's way past my bedtime. Oh, not one of these problems. Here we go. A lot of little technical things to get things perfect, so you have to bear with me. But like I was saying, I went to bed early last night. I'm just tweaking the sound here a little bit. I don't like how quiet that is. That's much better. Now I feel like a person. Now I feel like there's a personal sound. Sorry I've been wasting time. I gotta get to the content, but let me tell you. Last night I went to a party, and it was a nice party a friend had, saying thank you to all her friends. Thanks, Jennifer. She was saying thank you to all her friends who've been supportive of her throughout a tough time, and I really thought it was interesting to go, and I enjoyed it. But I am an awkward person, and I fault nobody but myself for this. In the past, I would have dealt with going to a party like this and the social awkwardness I feel, especially not knowing many people, getting to know new people, by having a drink or multiple drinks. Probably multiple drinks. I probably just would have overdone it, gone too far, and that was me. And so, big difference last night going in there without alcohol, bridging the gap between me and my discomfort. But sort of like I said to Jennifer, sort of like I've been thinking to myself, in order to get used to things socially, you just kind of have to jump in and learn how to swim. It's like learning how to swim without arms or something, not having alcohol in my system. And so that's predominantly the way I've done it all of my adult life. And for all the reasons I've stated here before, why I don't do that, they all sustain. Like, I don't want to drink because drinking makes me naughty in every other respect. Drinking will make me be like, what else can I do? What else can I get my hands on? And including and especially smoke marijuana. That's just my deal. And so I went, and after a while, I was really glad to have a couple people there who I was talking to. Jennifer's sister has a kid. Like, they have a 6-month-old, and I still relate to having a small child even though she's 6. That's very recent in history, and it's rapid, the change. And so there was a lot I could talk to her about having a newborn there. I don't know if it's technically a newborn at 6 months, but it sure feels new. So that was nice. And things I could relate to. I got into conversations with people later about TV, and it was nice because, like, I'm totally a TV guy. I love to escape into some good television, and we talked about Game of Thrones, and once I felt there were those things in common we could talk about, my comfort level, got a lot better. But I'm a weirdo. I gotta keep putting myself, and that's not supposed to be like humiliating, self-deprecating. I just have to get used to being around people. And honestly, the reason I bring this up, people, is because my hardest cross to bear is engaging more with others. Like, I mentioned it, maybe picking up the phone is hard for me. And so going to a party like this, I'm like, oh my gosh, strangers. And so what I was doing was across the room, not in a weird stalky way, I was looking at people and thinking about who they were. I was observing you people. Do you know that? I was observing you. And I was saying to myself, who is this person? And even though I didn't really stand there and talk to people, I got a feeling that there were a lot of genuinely nice people there. And it was just like me being self-conscious without the blanket of alcohol wrapping my brain and being able to help me start conversations without feeling self-conscious. But it was good. I went and did that, and I got to do more stuff like that. What can I say? I'm going to purposefully network. We're still trying to find a location to have a fit club here, and do that once a week. And that's one group of people I want to be around. I keep an eye on meetup groups online because there are some topics I want to learn more about. And sometimes the fastest way to learn is to sit down and listen to someone else who knows. So I might go to a WordPress meetup. I might go to a Joomla meetup. These are content management systems. And now I'm veering way off topic. But my point is actually that I want to network with people. There's always that food after lunch coming up, and I'm doing weird hiccup stuff during these recordings, so forgive me. Another swallow, very unprofessional sounding, but I hope you can live with it. What else? I just wanted to talk about that. I got to bed later than usual, so I feel sluggish. Today my workout was nice. I didn't really want to go and do anything super crazy. Nothing high impact, because I'm still going slightly easy on my weird ankle, and so I did this thing called Cardio Express with this lady called Debbie Seabers, and it's about a half an hour. It's pretty light cardio, low impact, some focus on the core, but it was enough to get me very toasty, very sweaty. No resting, so you keep moving. Even though there are certain moves that are kind of light movements that keep you moving, those are kind of like a rest. So there are moments where it's like, okay, yeah, I can keep this up. And even that, I go into it thinking, oh, this is gonna be easy, piece of cake. And then it is like a little challenge. After a while, I'm like, and that's a nice feeling, actually. That's what I'm going for. If there's not some of that, feeling warm and toasty and sweaty, I'm probably not doing enough. And I get warm and toasty going for a walk, but I don't breathe like that, so it's nice to breathe like that. And just let me get back to how I got to keep mentioning, fitness is something you can have control over. If life has you bogged down, if you feel like you're not able to achieve or do things, this is one thing that is in your power, okay? You don't have to go and buy Beachbody, but you can start out somewhere, and it's really nice. And I don't like to hear excuses from people, because that's just what they are. I'm telling you straight to your face, stop making up malarkey with me. Go on a walk, do some sit-ups, stretch, move your body around. I get up and I move every single part of my body around. It's a mix between what I learned in Kung Fu, what I've learned for stretches in a lot of these workouts I've done. And I'll tell you what, it's really important to me to get the movement in every day. For that sense of accomplishment is the point I'm getting to. I'm not so much talking about the benefits of fitness physically as much as I am mentally. How we who have been indulgent people in our lives, or substance abusers, I'm sorry, some of us don't want to admit that or say that, but it's true, I've overdone it. Some of us who've done that, we're looking for a mental benefit from this, and I know I am. I feel empowered when I do something like this, so it's the simplest way I can think of to feel empowered. Do some fitness, and it's awesome. I just feel good, getting the heart pumping, detoxifying the body with the blood going through the veins, and the blood delivering nutrients to the body. I love the concept of all of that, okay? And in principle, I'm like, ooh, when I think, oh yeah, put a chemical in my body to feel better, to feel good. In principle, that sounds really neat, but in reality, that can be a real nightmare, having to chase your good feelings that way. So I'm as natural as you can be. And everybody is different, okay? As an individual, you might need, because of your special needs, for whatever reason, I'm not a doctor, okay? You might need something prescribed, but I personally don't want to prescribe anything. When I have aches and pains, I don't want to take anything. No pain pills, no antibiotics, no mood medication, no self-medicating with narcotics. I want to go as straight as possible, use food as my medicine, and exercise. That's the goal for me. And also the spiritual aspect of it in the morning when I get up. Like I always tell you guys, I get up and meditate and pray. And watch out, because I have a freemium coming. It should be done soon, I hope, within the next few weeks, because I'm setting up a site. It's all about meditation, okay? I'm going to have a meditation challenge, and I'm going to try and get people in on it for free and see if they like the feeling of mellowing out and stuff. So what I wanted to do to keep things flowing and going in this, okay, is today I'm gonna talk about step 2 a little bit and read more from the book and see if I can impart to you my wisdom. And I'm generous with it because, frankly, that's what I want to do in my life now, is just try and help people who are struggling, and maybe you relate to something I'm saying. So step 2 in the 12 steps of Marijuana Anonymous, which mirrors Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. This will be familiar to a lot of you guys, except for my totally unique perspective and spin on it. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay, so step 2 was our introduction to the principle of open-mindedness and hope. In step 1, we confronted our addiction, admitting that we were powerless over marijuana and that our lives had become unmanageable. We were then left with 2 alternatives: to stay as we were and to continue using marijuana until we died, or to seek spiritual help. Once we admitted our powerlessness, we had to find a power greater than ourselves by which we could live. We knew that our human will alone had never been sufficient to manage our addiction. We began to realize that only a higher power could help us. Okay, and so a lot of people get hung up on this, okay? A lot of people don't feel comfortable with the idea of God, and that's understandable. I don't necessarily either. I'm kind of like personally guarded when it comes to my spiritual beliefs, when it comes to God, because people are really self-righteous about God. So let me just tell you, forget the Bible for a second. Forget Western Christian ideas of God or the God of Abraham or whatever. Just forget that for a second, all right? All we're talking about here is allowing for the possibility that we should not underestimate infinity, for one thing, that we're just finite creatures and we can't possibly know. So to put our faith in something like that, it doesn't have to be God when we're talking about a step in Marijuana Anonymous or a drug addiction program where you're trying to get off of whatever your addiction is, okay? Whatever drug you use in your addiction. Specifically, I was going to say that it can be anything that empowers you, okay? A higher power in this context to me means anything that empowers you. I heard a story of a guy who his higher power is guitar, and so he's developed this passion to go after the guitar and play the guitar, and it's his higher power because it's what's making him wake up with meaning every day. So your higher power doesn't have to be God per se. And if it is, and that works for you, that's wonderful. I'm not critical of that. But let me tell you and speak to the idea of a higher power, all right? We are just merely finite human beings. We can only have a limited amount of conception compared to the infinity of all the universe, all that is. And everything, all the words and everything we use are just in a minuscule way so finite and so inadequate to describe what we're talking about with God, okay? And the light's flickering. I have to fix that thing. It drives me a little nuts. And so I might stop this if that keeps going. What I was saying is, light? Is that a sign from God, or is that some kind of faulty electricity? Let me get back to what I was saying. Everything within the context of being a human being is finite. We are minuscule compared to all that there is. That's what I was saying. And so when we try to put words to something that's infinite or beyond our conception, it's woefully inadequate. That's kind of why, like, people are like, how do you know God's not a woman? And I'm like, how do you know God is just defined in these human terms, that God is reflected in people? We're just one form of life that could live throughout the universe. And so getting very philosophical about God right now. And but my point is, don't underestimate infinity. And that so our words alone, in virtue of the fact that we are finite human beings, are woefully inadequate to even talk. So when I say God, is that word God adequate to describe what I'm talking about? Is the word it adequate to describe what I'm talking about? We don't know. All I know is that I don't want to underestimate infinity. So when I think about the vast possibilities of infinity and what that means, I'm like optimistic that something amazing beyond my conception, beyond my understanding could exist. And why not have an optimistic thought about it? Instead of being held up on like, oh no, am I going to be one of those people believing in God? So this is almost an agnostic view leaning toward that being possible. When I think about infinity, philosophically, mathematically, I'm like, how could I, a finite human being, really come to the conclusion that there is no God? It seems to me as reasonable to assume there is something as much, if not more, as somebody who assumes there's nothing, like the atheist view. If you say you don't believe in the God you're hearing about in the Bible, okay, fine. Like, I can't say whether that's true or not. All I'm talking about is an abstract idea of don't underestimate what is possible and what's out there, because it could we just don't know. We are too limited as people to know. And I don't care if we have the combined brain power of all the supercomputers and all the people in the world all summed together into one super brain, it is still incredibly finite compared to everything that is. And it boggles the mind when you think about what you can't possibly understand. So tying it back into this, in step 2, it's like, don't underestimate what is possible. So like, whatever it is that empowers you, maybe somehow being a parent is so important to you that you do it for your kids, okay? And then there are people who be like, no, you have to do it for yourself. And so I will just go with, everybody's a unique individual. Whatever works for you might not work for me. It's like finding the unique puzzle piece that works in any given individual and running with that empowerment, okay? So, and that doesn't mean it's always going to work. It doesn't mean you're not going to have to try again. You got to stick with these things, you know? It's not a one-size-fits-all type deal, especially when you're talking about a higher power. Whatever empowers you. And for me, empowerment, let me go back to fitness. Lately, for me, empowerment has been fitness. I feel like I get up and I'm like, oh, I can do something. And even if I don't want to, I do it. And I'm like, yes, I did it. I have control over something. And it makes me feel strong. And I think that's a cumulative effect over time when you come back to that and do it again. Honestly, people. So get up, be active, do something. And I'll talk about escapism as a means of at least first in the first steps getting over your drug addiction, the withdrawal, and the first days, which can be a nightmare. Sometimes you do need to seek professional help. I was just lucky because I had the kind of problems I could tackle myself. I knew well enough that they were problems, but I didn't have to go to rehab to straighten my act out. I found enough purpose within myself. And even when I did it, it was like, rather than having a higher power, it just, like I've said before, had to do with me not wanting to be angry anymore. I had real anger issues and rage issues that I've dealt with pretty well being sober. I'm much better off being sober. Just trust me. Would you trust me? Take the leap of faith in me and trust me. My goodness. When we came to meetings and listened to others, we identified with the insanity of addiction as described by the members of the fellowship. We began to grudgingly admit that we were selfish and self-centered too, just like the other addicts in the group. We were spiritually bankrupt and needed help. And yes, when I drink and when I smoke, I feel like the spiritual door that I can feel in my life, being sober and clear, slams shut, and it's shut and closed hard. I can't even, I'm in such a fog mentally that I can't focus on what I'm trying to accomplish when I'm in meditation and prayer. It's just too scatterbrained to really reel in, and that, it just makes your mind fire wildly. And there is a certain selfishness to that, okay? Like, I think that being high and screwed up all the time perverts the spirit, and you become more egotistical, and you can't really be selfless when you're so involved with it. I think drugs make people narcissistic. Yes, I'm sorry, but that's my personal opinion. We could now see that our marijuana abuse had continued long after we realized that we had a problem. We had continued using, even though as we became ever more resentful, isolated, paranoid, slothful, and desperate. Ever more, not even more. And yes, every one of those words right there, resentful. I was angry at a lot of people. Isolated. I did isolate. I still isolate, and it's something I'm trying to overcome, which ties into the first part of this podcast. Paranoid. Oh, yes. Being around people high, I'm like, "Whoa, just be quiet." And my eyes, like looking at you and not being able to maintain proper eye contact. Slothful. Does that mean like just sitting there like sedentary, not moving around? If that's what it means, I don't know every word in the vocab in the dictionary, people, but if that's what it means, definitely. And desperate. God, I felt desperate. No matter how great the need or wish to stop, the thought of using eventually pushed aside all the reasons why we should. We always had to have a supply on hand and felt horribly guilty that we couldn't stop using. Yes, I've felt that a lot. I've for years had feelings like I want to stop using and like it was impossible. I couldn't, and sometimes I was just reserved to the idea that this is it. This is going to be me for the rest of my life. And it wasn't, which is amazing. Our insanity was evident as we repeated the same behavior over and over. Yeah, I'm starting some music. Why not? Over and over, yet somehow expected different results. So what's next? Some of us had bad experiences each time we smoked, but managed to suppress them somehow before we used again. That's the insanity of addiction, you know that? That's enough for right now. Within 10 or 15 minutes of smoking, it's like your mind in the addiction is like, use, and it's an irrational thought because you're thinking, the irrational addicted mind is thinking, that's what I need, that's what's going to make me feel better. Within 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes sooner, my mind was on such a crazy, wild spin, looping in negativity and you know, like with zero tolerance, I think I would smoke it right now and enjoy it, and I would enjoy it probably for about 7 or 10 days, and then it would become hell, and I'd be stuck back in the same cycle, and I'd have all the same anger developing, and it's just not good for me. It's not what I want out of my life. I feel so bloody mature saying that, and I'm not bragging, because there's this part of me that's like, dude, you are so boring. When you say you're mature, you're boring, man. I feel boring. I shouldn't, right? Like, am I interesting? I don't know. But I'm smiling. Something must be right. I'm smiling. This is not contrived. I was, before I started this out today, I was having reservations. I was like, I don't know if I can do this properly, right? Am I in the right emotional state? I'm like overthinking it. And now that I'm 23 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling it. And although that's the case, I do want to start wrapping this up because I'm around 24 minutes right now, and I'm just keeping these at a certain length. 30 minutes to me is even too long. Just a good dose of boo-boo-boo, and here you go. And if you're liking the new format of the show, then I appreciate that. If you're listening in iTunes, I would appreciate a rating. I would appreciate feedback. If you want to send me a message, send it to paul@fitspaz.com. You can check out more about me by going to fitspaz.com. There's also a FitSpaz like page on Facebook. And you can follow me on all the relevant social media. You can see the video, which I've been working on making cool, if you go to YouTube and search for FitSpaz. I don't have enough subscribers on YouTube to get the handle yet, so what am I going to do? But there is a link on my website if you go there. There are links to all this stuff if you go to fitspaz.com. So the last thing I want to do is I want to try and give this guy proper credit. The guy whose background music I use is a man named Kevin MacLeod. very talented individual. He puts his stuff out there, and you're free to use it as long as you give him the proper credit and stuff. So I want to point him out. Go to incompetech.com, and that's pretty much it for now. And I will be back to you with some more fitness-based stuff this week. I'm going to try and get Coach Brian over here, and we're going to do some more stuff that's specifically more like fitness related. And I hope you're having a good week. I want to inspire you. Snap! Just be done. If you're feeling like you want to quit. You can do this. Life, things are possible. We don't even believe it. And sometimes I have to prove it to myself, okay? Your doubts are like the same as my doubts. We're all one big community of doubting people. Isn't that sweet? But there's a solution to that doubt, and just take my word for it sometimes. No, I'm not grabbing anything inappropriate down here. I'm scratching the bottom of my belly. Okay? So y'all have a nice day. We're 26 minutes now. Boy, did that go fast. I hope you're all well, and stay out of trouble in the meanwhile. And tell me what you want to hear from me, all right? Paul at FitSpaz.com. Peace, everybody.